Fixer family, it's Charmin. Welcome to Fixin' 2. Today I'm going to show you 3 awesome bow techniques with a bonus thrown in. Let's get started. Now we're going to be using an array of ribbons to show you these techniques. Some twine from the Dollar Tree, zip ties, and also some paddle wire, all of this from the Dollar Tree, and of course some scissors. So the first bow we're going to create is we need to measure out 18 inches. We'll go ahead and get that cut, and then we're going to need 6 total pieces at 18 inches long. So we'll go ahead and get those cut. Now that these are cut, we're going to take our first piece and we're going to bring it together, overlapping about an inch. And from that point, we're going to pull down to find our center, bringing that back up and then flipping it over. And then we're going to push down in the middle and then folding it back on both sides. I like to call this an M fold, because it's kind of in the shape of an M. Once we get that created, then we'll take and pull both of our loops up to make sure that we have the center point and we've got even loops. We've gone ahead and tucked it into our thumb and then gotten our second piece of ribbon, doing the same exact thing, overlapping about an inch, flipping it over, making sure everything is good and even, and then we're going to push down in the center and then over to each side, creating that M. And of course we want to make sure that our loops are even, that we're holding it in the proper place there. And we're going to take that and then put it side by side as best you can, and making it look kind of like an X. I'm using a lot of letters tonight. Once we kind of have it like we want it, then of course we are going to go ahead and grab our piece of pre-cut wire, and I've kind of done these in the shape of a U, another letter, but this one was giving me a bit of difficulties. This is kind of a rather thin wire. I suggest more of like a 20 gauge wire. This I think is like a 26 gauge, and but it was what I had on hand, but it worked okay. So once we get that wire around it, we're going to, of course, make sure that it's good and tight and twisted together. And I just kind of wrap it around a few times to make sure that we've got it good and secure. And just kind of fluffing it out, making sure everything looks good. We'll set that aside, and we're going to make a second one just like that. Overlapping an inch, flipping it over, creating that M fold in the middle, and then doing the same thing for a second one. And then putting them side by side together to create that X. We'll go ahead and tie that one off good and tight, and then we're going to set the 2 of these aside. And for our final 2 pieces of ribbon, we're going to do the same technique. We're just going to make them a little smaller. We're going to flip it over there and overlap it about 3 inches. I was kind of not sure if that was 3 or 4 inches. It looked more like 4, but you'll see that I do adjust it, and I do it about 3 inches an overlap, doing the same technique, finding the center, pulling it up together, pinching it together there, flipping it over, and doing the M fold for both of these 2 pieces. Now that our third one's done, we're going to set that aside, and we're going to take the first one that we made, and we're going to place it down on our mat going east-west, and then we'll take the second one that we made and we're going to take it north-south. Now we have not trimmed off any of our wire because we're going to be using it to put this all together. So we're going to take the extra wire that we had on it and we're just going to attach it to the bottom one as tight as we can, kind of creating a circle as you see. And now what I'm going to do before I put the other piece on, I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of the ribbon that was on my spool to create tails for my bow. Now guys, you don't have to. You can just keep it just like this with no tails. You can do 2 tails as long as you want, 4 tails. It is really up to you for this, most definitely. I'm going to do 4, I guess you kind of say medium-sized tails. And I just folded it over and into half, and I'm marking it with this wonderful wire to know where my center point is, and I'll be gathering it and attaching it to the back. So before we do that, we're going to need to put our third and final loops on here, our smaller loops, and doing the exact same thing here by just placing it on top using the excess wire that we had on the back of it, wrapping it around, and then making sure that it is good and tight and secure. And you should make sure that you've got your loops, your wire, long enough to attach everything. So now we're going to take the last bit of wire there and attach our tails. Before we complete this bow, we want to give it its final touches here by creating dovetails on our tails. And so this is super easy. You're just going to fold your wire to wire, and then going from the folded side to the point in a triangle, you have dovetails. So really simple, and I'm doing 2 at a time, but you go wire to wire, and then over on your folded side, you'll cut from your folded side upwards to the point in a triangle. And of course, since I'm doing 2, you want to make sure that they're pretty even there. Again, it's just from folded side up to the point at a triangle kind of shape, and you have your dovetails. I think this is one of my favorite type of bows to do. Now with bow number 2, I have 3 different ribbons here, 3 different sizes. I'm going to show you with 2 of these how simple this little 2-looped bow is. I've done these several times on different projects, and it is really super simple. So I'm going to pull out some of my ribbon, and using my 2 index fingers, I'm going to kind of make 2 loops. And this is kind of like when you tie a shoe. You're just going to cross it over and then bring the loop down through the hole that you create at the bottom. And we're going to pull it super tight to start with. So once you get it good and pulled tightly, you're going to start just kind of manipulating the loops by pulling your little strings that you've got left there. And what it's going to do, it is going to loosen the center as you're pulling. So you pull it down kind of small and then pulling it tight again. But once you do that, as you see me pulling this string, you're going to see that for this one, the back is what's moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab and hold the back on the opposite one, and then hold the front on this one, and then pull tightly. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull it tight for the size loops that you want once you get it there. Then I will cut it away from the spool, and then of course I'm going to do a little dovetailing. I always love to dovetail my bows. I just think that it makes them look finished. So now I'm going to show you how to do it on a little bit wider ribbon. Now you can do this with any size ribbon. You just have to create longer loops. You're going to pull more of them out, create enough room. Whoops, getting away from me there. You want to create enough room to make your little hole at the bottom to bring your loop through. And it's the same technique as you'll see here. I kind of pull it a little short, but leaving it long enough for me to pull it out and then get the size loops that I want for this bow. And really, like I said, you can do it with any size. Just make sure you have enough, holding your front and back, those that's not moving, to create that tight bow, and then put this on any project that you have. Finishing it up with the dovetail. For our third bow, I'm going to show you how to do a 3-ribboned bow. Now, in honor of Valentine's Day coming up, I thought I would use some pink and definitely some hearts, but you can use any 3 ribbons and really any width ribbon that you want. I'm just using what I have on hand here. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm getting this stacked together, kind of the widest one on the bottom, medium, and then the smallest one. And then I'm just going to take my spools and I'm dropping them on the floor. This really makes it much easier to work with. This particular ribbon is a little difficult. I won't say difficult. It's just it kind of a little tedious and takes some time to kind of get it all stacked together. But I'm going to take and measure out 18 inches again. And once I've got it good and stacked and I've got my 18-inch mark, what I'm going to do is then take it right here at the 18-inch mark and I'm going to flip it and kind of, I guess you can kind of say, fold it in half. I'm just taking it, fold it in half and bringing the end down to the other part of the ribbon. I hope this makes sense. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. And then just making sure it's good and stacked. And I'm going to hold it all together and we are going to fold it again. Just hold on to all of it together, get it all layered up, and then you're folding it here. At this point, you have 3 loops at the top and 3 loops at the bottom. We're going to do this one more time on each end, creating a total of 6 loops. So 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, and now we're going to go ahead, fold it one more time, and getting it all layered up there together so that you can do that. And then of course you'll do it one more time to get those extra loops at the bottom. And the reason that I only did the total 6 at the top and 6 at the bottom, because I kind of ran out of my heart ribbon here, but it really still to me turned out good. But guys, a fuller bow is of course more loops. So the more loops that you want, of course you can keep wrapping it just like this to create a fuller bow. So now that we've got it all the way done like I want it, I'm going to go ahead and pull up and cut off all of my ribbon and we'll get ready to move to the next step. Now once we have it all folded together, what we're going to do is we are going to actually take this and fold it in half to find our center of this. And then we're going to take our scissors and we are going to cut into your ribbon about 1/2 inch on both sides. You do not want to cut all the way through your ribbon, most definitely, but you'll only cut about 1/2 inch because it depending of course on the width of your ribbon. And before we put it all together, I'm just again kind of measuring out some tails, and I'm going to get those stacked together, find my center point, and then I'm going to lay it onto the little folded ribbon that we have here. We're going to put all of this together, and I'm going to be using a zip tie. So I'm pulling in my zip tie, and you want to make sure of course that your zip tie is big enough to go all the way around. I think I got that one covered. I think it's long enough. But you, because if you've got more ribbon in there for more loops, then you're definitely going to want to make sure you've got a big enough zip tie. So you go ahead, get all that together, pulling it super tight, and I like to use my scissors or something along that lines to kind of hold that bigger part of the zip tie down and then pulling tightly, very tightly. Once you get all of that together, the fun will begin and it'll start to look like a bow. So now we're going to find the center, the open part of our ribbon here, and we are just going to begin to pull out all of our ribbons, starting from the inside. And you see that that's the first ends. We're going to just kind of pull those apart. and just have fun with it. We'll start pulling from the inside, one to one side, one to the other side, just going back and forth until you get all of your loops separated. We'll also do this on the other end, and once we get that completely pulled out, then of course you know what we're going to do. We're going to find all of our ends and we are going to cut dovetails. Again, guys, I just think that this finishes off a bow of any kind and makes it look super pretty. And then you'll just take wherever you're going to put this bow, whether it's a wreath, a tree topper, or wherever you're going to put it, just on the door in general, fluff it out, make it beautiful. And for the bonus, I am going to show you guys how to easily make a twine flower using, of course, jute twine. This is twine from the Dollar Tree. I know that Walmart has it as well. So what you're going to do is take the end of your twine and you're going to place it on your hand. I'm using just my 4 fingers, and I'm going to wrap it around my fingers like 12 times. And we'll get that looped around there, and then I'm just going to slide it off and cut off the cut it off from the spool there, and then we'll cut off a little extra piece here, and I'm just going to tie a knot around the center of it. And of course I'll just loop it around there to make sure, first of all, that I have it in the center or as close to center as possible. And then I'm just going to kind of tie it tight and then wrap it around and tie a knot in it. And once I get that secure, we're going to go ahead and make a second one exactly the same way. Of course, once you get them tied, you're going to be cutting off the excess string from the little piece that you wrapped around the center. And now we're going to just take all of these loops and we're just going to begin to separate them and kind of pull them apart. And I call this my twine flower because it kind of resembles a little, like the petals of a flower. And I do that on both of them, just pulling them apart, kind of just stretching it and making it as wide as possible. We're going to place the first one, kind of say east-west, and then we're going to take a little bit of our hot glue and we're going to place it in the center here. And then we're going to take our second one and place it on here north-south. And then I just kind of pick it up and make sure that it's good and secure and that the hot glue sets. And guys, you can use this on a ton of different projects. I love this twine flower. And as always, I am so glad that you guys joined me today. And if this is the first time you are visiting, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and become a part of the Fixer family. We would love to have you. Now, down in the comment section below, I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to know, did this tutorial help you out with a new bow technique? And if you have an awesome bow already that you're using, I would love to hear from you as well, because I love to learn new bow techniques. Again, I am so glad that you joined me today. Know that you are amazing. And always remember to keep looking up, because that's where it all is. I'll see you on the next video.